everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, and welcome to the second in my series, Like This Film, Try These Books. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books. Today is the second in my Christmas series that I am doing as a collaboration with Julie at Hungry Bookworm. Our series is all about the Christmas films that we love and the books that we recommend you try based on these films. So if you haven't seen my introductory video last week, which was about the film Home Alone, I will leave a card for you to go and check that one out if you would like to. And today I've chosen a different Christmas film. It's not quite as much of a favourite as Home Alone, but the film I've saved for third is my absolute top favourite, so you'll be seeing that one next week. So today's film is definitely Christmassy, but it takes place over a period of time a bit longer than just Christmas. And the film I've chosen, you'll be surprised because it is a rom-com, is Love Actually. And Love Actually is one of my favourite Christmas films because I just love that there's so many different storylines in this film. So if you've never seen Love Actually, it's a film about a wide variety of people, but it's a film essentially about love and different kinds of love. So we have Hugh Grant playing a Prime Minister and his relationship with one of the people who works for him, who is fantastically played by Martine McCutcheon. I love her accidental swearing when she meets the Prime Minister. It's just hilarious. There's a much talked about storyline featuring Andrew Lincoln as a man in love with his best friend's wife, and she's played by Keira Knightley. And there's a very famous scene. Andrew Lincoln pretends to be carol singers on the doorstep and holds up cards saying how much he loves the Keira Knightley character. Controversial, a bit stalkerish, but there we go, we all love it anyway. There's a storyline about a washed up pop star played by Bill Nighy and his attempt to have a Christmas hit with a version of Love Is All Around, which he has squeezed the word Christmas into, so it's now called Christmas Is All Around. And there's lots of other nice little storylines, but there's also some very sad storylines, including one with Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson, who play a married couple, and this is a storyline involving an affair. So it's a very sad storyline, but overall the film has a lot of funny moments and a lot of heartwarming moments, and I enjoy watching it at Christmas time, but I wouldn't say I watch it every single year, so that's why it's not my top absolute favourite. But I thought we'd better have a video this week where I didn't recommend any sort of horrifying post-apocalyptic fiction. This is a rom-com, so I will be talking about a rare area for me, books that feature romances, relationships and so on. And the first book recommendation I have this week is my absolute favourite book about relationships, and that is High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. High Fidelity by Nick Hornby is my favourite book about relationships because it is about a man who is hopeless in relationships. Rob is a guy who works in a record store, and he likes to make lists of his top 5 of everything. And he begins the book, My Desert Island All-Time Top 5 Most Memorable Split-Ups in chronological order. Alison Ashworth, Penny Hardwick, Jackie Allen, Charlie Nicholson, Sarah Kendrew. These were the ones that really hurt. Can you see your name in that lot, Laura? I reckon you'd sneak into the top 10, but there's no place for you in the top 5. Those places are reserved for the kind of humiliations and heartbreaks that you're just not capable of delivering. So, it may be harsh, but Rob does go on to say that this sounds harsher than he intended, but in this book, after the breakup of his current relationship, Rob decides to investigate why his top 5 breakups happened and what went wrong in those relationships. So he attempts to get in touch with the women who were behind these breakups. This is a great book with lots of stuff about records and about love and just about relationships in general. So I've chosen this one because relationships are definitely a big theme of Love Actually, and we see breakups in Love Actually. We see all sides of relationships in Love Actually. So High Fidelity really typifies that for me, and it's one of my favourite books of all time, so I do highly recommend checking out High Fidelity if you haven't already. The second book I'm going to recommend is actually a book that I read a few weeks ago, and that is The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. And this is about a marriage and a man's relationship with his child and his dog. And it's also very sad. The sad elements in Love Actually are less sad than this book, but there is a storyline in Love Actually where a man is played by Liam Neeson is trying to come to terms with grief at the loss of his wife, and themes from The Art of Racing in the Rain are definitely seen in that storyline. So yeah, do not start The Art of Racing in the Rain if you are not prepared for a really sad read, but do start it if you love a story that's told by a dog. And yeah, it's just a wonderful book, but you will go through the whole range of emotions reading it, so do be prepared for that. My third recommendation for books about relationships and love is Bridget Jones' Diary. Bridget Jones' Diary is my absolute favourite sort of love story told from the perspective of the woman. And Bridget Jones' Diary is of course in a diary format, and it's hilarious. Bridget Jones' Diary I actually do find has a similar vibe to parts of Love Actually, so this is one where I have actually managed to match a vibe rather than a theme, I think, maybe. But yeah, Bridget Jones' Diary is also considered to be a bit of a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice. Bridget is having a bit of a toxic relationship with a guy called Daniel Cleaver, but she also meets a character called Mark Darcy, and I won't give you any spoilers if you haven't read Bridget Jones' Diary. You need to go out and read it immediately. I don't have my copy of this book on hand because I think it's at my mum's house in the garage, but yeah, it's a book that I absolutely loved. I've loved all the books in the Bridget Jones series, and I highly, highly recommend it if you enjoy Love Actually. What I was really looking for when trying to compare books to Love Actually was what I really wanted was a real ensemble book with lots of different characters and lots of different storylines. I couldn't think of a book that does that I really, really love. I asked my husband and he suggested I talk about The Passage by Justin Cronin, but I promised in this video not to talk about anything dark or post-apocalyptic, so I can't talk about The Passage. It's nothing like Love Actually, but what I decided would maybe be a good alternative is another book that I've read this year, which is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I think that this is similar to Love Actually in not many ways at all, because of course it's basically a YA fantasy, but it is an ensemble. We do have a multiple point of view storyline, and there are several relationships in this, so which the book explores as a sideline to the main storyline, which is sort of about a heist. I really enjoyed listening to this book earlier in the year, and one of the best things for me about it was the relationships. So there's a bit of unrequited love in this, there's a bit of love-hate relationships. I haven't actually read the next book in the series, but I would say give this series a try, even if you are not massively into fantasy, because I'm not massively into fantasy. So yeah, it's worth a try, but it obviously doesn't have the feel-good vibes of Love Actually. Lastly, I have a recommendation for you that is a children's book. I said I would recommend a children's book for each film, and I'm really pleased with this one. It's another book by Shirley Hughes, who was the author I recommended last week, and this one is one of my favourite children's Christmas stories, called Angel May. Angel May is by Shirley Hughes. May is this girl on the front, and she is given the part of Angel Gabriel in the school nativity play, but her family is also soon due to have a new baby, and May is a young girl sort of struggling a little bit with the idea of sharing her family with a new baby. So this is a great Christmassy book that would be good to share with an older child who is maybe soon to be an older sibling. So it has those ideas in it. It also has, and the reason I chose it for comparing with Love Actually is because the main crux of this is a nativity play. And there is a nativity play, a bit of a notorious nativity play in Love Actually. I believe some of the characters that the children are playing in it are octopuses. So it's quite a different nativity play. Shirley Hughes's nativity play is much more traditional, and it's quite a long story. It's got quite a lot of text on each page. It's not really similar to Lucy and Tom last week in that sense, because it runs through all of the build up to Christmas and practicing the Christmas play, but also about the family getting ready for the baby, then what happens when mum is obviously gone to hospital to have the baby, right at a similar time to the nativity play. This book was published in 1991, so it's a bit newer than the book I recommended last week, but it still has quite traditional families and traditional elements to it. But it's a lovely Christmas tale all about May and how she gets on in her nativity. So if you have a child of maybe 6 or 7 or older, with quite a good attention span, this would be a fun book to read about nativities and about babies arriving in the family. Yeah, so that's my recommendation for a children's book related to Love Actually. So those are all the recommendations I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments about your favourite Christmas films, about what you think of Love Actually, and if you do like Love Actually like I do, let me know in the comments down below what's your favourite bit or your funniest bit of Love Actually, and if you have seen it, is it the cinnamon stick? Next week's video will be the final one in the Like This Film Try These Books series, and it will be my favourite Christmas film of all time, so I'm really looking forward to that one. I know Julie also has 2 more videos for you. I'm not sure whether this video will come out before or after Julie's second video, so if you've already seen Julie's second video, then brilliant. If you haven't, please go over to Julie's channel, which will be linked in the description down below, and check out which film she's talking about this week. Thank you to Julie for collaborating with me on this series. I've really enjoyed talking about Christmas films, and yeah, I hope you'll all be back next week to see which one is my ultimate favourite. Thanks for watching. I hope you will all join me again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.